Imagine you are getting ready for a trip. Like you've probably been planning this for months.
Oh, absolutely. The anticipation is just huge.
Right. Usually when we talk about travel, there is this immense, almost overwhelming expectation of pure, unadulterated excitement. It always plays out like a movie montage in our heads.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean, the romanticized version.
Totally. You're tossing clothes into a perfectly organized suitcase, you grab your favorite sunglasses, the upbeat soundtrack kicks in.
And suddenly you are fast-forwarded to a beach somewhere, right?
Yes, sipping something brightly colored with a tiny paper umbrella sticking out of it.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
It is deeply romanticized. We are basically conditioned by movies, by social media, and, travel advertisements to focus entirely on the aesthetic of the destination.
We really are.
We completely gloss over the gritty physical mechanics of actually getting our bodies from point A to point B.
Oh, absolutely. The daydream is just effortless. It is a total breeze. But then reality hits.
The hard reality.
Yeah. You get out of the taxi or you park your car, you grab your heavy luggage, and you step through those heavy automatic sliding doors at the airport departures terminal.
And the vibe shifts instantly.
Instantly. The moment that blast of air-conditioned, slightly frantic air hits your face, that cinematic movie montage screeches to an absolute halt.
The upbeat soundtrack is gone.
Replaced by the sound of rolling wheels on tile, overlapping overhead announcements, and literally thousands of people rushing.
It's intense. We are looking at an environment that is honestly a pressure cooker.
It really is a pressure cooker.
The airport is the absolute definition of a high-stakes, high-anxiety communication environment. It is a place where you are constantly being, processed, evaluated, and directed.
And think about how that feels if you are trying to navigate that chaotic space in a language that isn't your native tongue.
Oh, wow. That has a massive layer of difficulty.
Right. Imagine trying to process all that sensory input while simultaneously, translating vocabulary in your head.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. And that is exactly where we are heading today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are thrilled you are joining us today because we are taking a fascinating microscopic look at the very specific, very strategic language of travel.
We are unpacking a surprisingly brilliant resource today. It really is a survival toolkit.
Yeah, it's a guide based on a lesson called Navigating the Airport, Essential English for Travel. It comes from the English with Ava series.
And on the surface, if you just glance at this source, it looks like a straightforward list of travel phrases.
Just the basics, right? What to say at check-in, how to ask for your gate, that sort of basic stuff.
Which is, unfortunately, how most people would consume a guide like this.
They just skim it.
Exactly. They treat it as just a simple checklist to blindly memorize the night before a flight, hoping they can just parrot the words back when prompted.
But we are going to look a lot closer than that.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to completely deconstruct this travel guide.
We aren't just reading these phrases to you.
No, not at all. We are going to analyze exactly why these specific words were chosen by the creators of this lesson.
The intent behind the words.
Exactly. How do these exact sentences function as a tactical advantage in the chaotic, fast-paced ecosystem of an airport?
That's the real question.
And most importantly, how does internalizing and practicing these specific linguistic patterns transform you, the traveler, from someone who is, sweating profusely at the check-in counter to someone who moves through the terminal with total confidence?
When you really tear down the source material, it operates as a masterclass in functional linguistics.
Functional linguistics, I like that.
Yeah, it is not just teaching vocabulary, which is the assumption many language learners make. It is actually teaching psychological armor.
Wait, I love that phrase, psychological armor.
Ain't
Let's
it?
unpack that concept first.
Sure.
Because before we even look at the specific vocabulary our source gives us, we need to understand the ecosystem we are walking into.
We have to set the stage.
Right. We need to look at the environment these words are actually meant to survive in. Our source material explicitly calls this out right at the beginning.
It does. It states that airports feel stressful for a very specific reason.
Everything happens quickly, and you absolutely need to communicate clearly.
The acknowledgement of the environment's inherent hostility to casual conversation is the most crucial part of this entire guide.
Hostility to casual conversation. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, the source doesn't sugarcoat the reality of the situation. An airport is not a local cafe.
Definitely not.
It is not a place for meandering chats. It is an industrial machine designed to move millions of human bodies and thousands of tons of cargo across the planet on a rigidly unforgiving schedule.
I always think of the airport like A timed obstacle course.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Or actually, perhaps a better way to look at it is a relay race. Think about it.
Okay, a relay race. Walk me through that.
You work in the door,
Yeah. Okay.
and you are holding this invisible baton. The baton represents your vital information, your intent to travel, and your physical self. You have to run up and pass that baton to the check-in agent.
And they process it.
Yeah, then they pass you along, and you take the baton to the security officer. Then you run it to the gate agent.
And if you drop the baton at any point...
Exactly. If you drop it, if you stumble over your words, if you can't convey your information quickly and clearly, the whole line behind you grinds to a halt. The entire system breaks down just because of you.
I love that analogy because it perfectly highlights the immense pressure of the system. Let's connect that relay race idea to the bigger picture of human psychology.
Let's do it.
We need to look at what that immense time pressure does to our brains on a biological level.
Because we actually change, right, physically.
We do. When we are placed in a high-stakes, timed environment, which an airport fundamentally is, because that plane will close its doors and leave without you, whether you are there or not, our cognitive load absolutely skyrockets.
Because your brain is suddenly juggling 100 different logistical and emotional things at once.
It's overloaded.
You are standing in line thinking, do I have my passport? Is my bag over the 50-pound weight limit? Did I leave the coffee pot on at home?
Are my shoes going to be hard to take off?
Yes. You are just consumed by internal noise.
Your working memory is completely maxed out, just dealing with spatial awareness and logistics.
Right.
Now, add the layer of communicating in a second language on top of that.
That's the tipping point.
It really is. In moments of heightened stress, your brain's ability to spontaneously recall vocabulary is severely compromised.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it is a well-documented biological reaction, basically a mild form of the fight-or-flight response.
So your body thinks it's under attack.
Cortisol floods your system because your brain perceives the threat of missing your flight as a survival issue.
That makes so much sense.
When that happens, the blood flow actually shifts away from the language centers of your prefrontal cortex.
Wait, literally? The blood moves away?
Literally. Your ability to conjugate verbs or remember complex grammar rules actually becomes physically less efficient.
So when the source material emphasizes that you need to communicate clearly because everything happens quickly, they aren't just giving you a polite tip.
Not at all.
They're basically telling you to strip your language down to its absolute bare essentials because your brain literally won't be able to handle anything else in that moment.
They are advocating for linguistic survivalism.
Linguistic survivalism.
Wow. This is not the time for nuance. It is not the time to practice your complex storytelling skills or, offer long, winding anecdotes about why you chose to travel to London for your sister's wedding.
The agent does not care about your sister's wedding.
No, they don't. It is the time for precise, functional data exchange. In situations where speed and clarity are paramount, language must be stripped of all ambiguity.
Okay, let's see how that looks in practice at the very first hurdle of this obstacle course.
The check-in counter.
The check-in counter. This is your point of entry. You walk up to the desk, and the source gives us two initial actions.
Right, the initiation phase.
First, you have to arrive and announce yourself. The phrases they provide are, I'd like to check in for my flight, and here is my passport and ticket.
Okay.
Then immediately after that, you have to ask for information. What time does my flight board and which gate should I go to?
Notice the extreme economy of words across those phrases.
Yeah.
There is no wasted breath.
I'm actually going to push back on that economy of words for a second, though.
Oh, really? Okay, why?
Well, when I read the phrase, here is my passport, it feels a little jarring to me.
Jarring how?
It feels incredibly transactional, almost blunt. Like, if you are traveling, especially if you are representing your home country in a new place, shouldn't you try to be a bit warmer?
I see where you're going.
I feel like my natural instinct would be to walk up and say, hi there, good morning. How was your day going so far? I have my passport right here in my bag for you.
It is a very human, very natural instinct to want to lubricate the interaction with social niceties.
Yeah, just to be friendly.
We are taught to do that in almost every other aspect of our lives. But we have to analyze the elegant efficiency of the phrases the source has selected, specifically because of the environment.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's look at the first phrase, I'd like to check in for my flight. This phrase actually does the heavy lifting of softening the transaction without wasting any time.
Oh, because of the I'd like to.
Exactly. I'd like to, which is the contraction for I would like to, is a conditional phrase in English. It is inherently polite.
Right.
It states your intent without sounding like a direct command.
Ah, I see. So it's not just slamming your hand on the desk and shouting, "Check me in."
Precisely. You are using the grammar itself to be polite, rather than adding extra conversational filler.
That is really clever. So the grammar is doing the work.
The grammar does the work of the politeness, and once that polite intent is established by saying, "I'd like to," the very next phrase the source gives us, "Here is my passport and ticket," provides immediate, undeniable clarity.
Boom. Straight to the point.
It is a physical action, accompanied by the exact words describing the action. Think about this from the perspective of the airline agent.
Okay, putting myself in their shoes.
That agent has likely processed, 300 exhausted, confused, and sometimes irritable people in the last 4 hours.
Yeah, their patience is probably 0.
For them, your bluntness is actually a form of deep courtesy.
Wow, really? Bluntness as a courtesy.
Yes, you are giving them exactly the data they need to execute their job, with 0 friction and 0 cognitive desk work.
That makes me look at the interaction entirely differently. You are actually respecting the agent's time and their mental fatigue by being direct.
You are.
You aren't forcing them to engage in small talk when they just need to scan a barcode.
Furthermore, if we look at the psychological architecture of this initial interaction, there is a brilliant power dynamic shift happening that the source subtly guides you through.
A power dynamic shift. How so?
Well, the first phase is about providing information. You are establishing your identity. You are proving your right to be in the building.
Right, with the passport.
Once the agent accepts that, once you've handed over the passport and they begin typing the dynamic shifts, you are now a validated traveler.
Okay, I'm validated.
And because you are validated, you are now in a position to extract vital logistical data from them.
Which brings us to the questions. What time does my flight board?
Yeah.
And which gate should I go to?
Exactly. Why do you think the creators of this guide chose to focus strictly on those 2 specific questions?
Oh.
There are 100 things you could ask an airline agent. Why these 2?
Well, on a surface level. Because if you don't know the answers to those 2 things, you are literally going to miss your flight.
That is the practical reality, yes.
You'll be sitting in the food court eating a pretzel while your plane pushes back from the jet bridge.
True. But let's go a layer deeper into the psychology of the traveler.
Okay.
Those 2 questions represent the 2 fundamental axes of your existence in that moment, time and space.
Time and space. Why?
What time does my flight board dictates your entire temporal reality for the next few hours?
It sets your clock.
It tells you if you have 45 minutes to sit down and get a coffee, or if you need to grab your bags and sprint immediately. It dictates your internal pacing.
And which gate should I go to? Gives you your geographical goal.
Yes, the space.
It gives you your exact coordinates within this massive, confusing, seemingly endless building.
So by mastering just those 2 questions, you anchor yourself in reality. You go from being this overwhelmed, lost soul, wandering a giant terminal, reacting to every loud noise,
Which is a terrible feeling.
to someone with a specific schedule and a specific physical destination. You use language to assert control over a chaotic environment.
That is fascinating. It's almost like you are giving yourself a map and a compass just by deploying 2 specific sentences.
A linguistic map and compass, yeah.
Now, here is where the obstacle course gets really tricky.
Oh, yes. The next hurdle.
Because once you are armed with your boarding time and your gate number, you have to take that map and compass and walk right into the most notorious anxiety-inducing bottleneck in any airport anywhere in the world.
You have to navigate security.
Security.
The great equalizer of modern travel. Everyone, no matter who you are, has to face the scanners.
Honestly, airport security always feels to me like this totally unpredictable pop quiz that I haven't studied for.
A pop quiz is a great way to describe it.
Right. Like you try to prepare, you memorize the rules, you know you are supposed to take your liquids out and put them in a clear bag, you wear slip-on shoes.
You do your best.
But then you get to the front of the line, the conveyor belt is moving incredibly fast, people are staring at you, and suddenly the rules seem slightly different.
They often are.
One day it's keep your shoes on, the next time at the exact same airport it's take your shoes off, take your iPad out, but leave your laptop in the bag. It is maddeningly inconsistent.
That inconsistency is intentional on the part of security agencies, actually.
Oh, really? It's on purpose.
Yes, it keeps things unpredictable. But it creates a tremendous sense of vulnerability for you, the traveler.
Oh, I definitely feel vulnerable.
You are literally being scrutinized. Your personal belongings are being searched. And you are suddenly under the direct authority of officers who are highly trained to look for anomalies and suspicious behavior.
Right.
The power dynamic is entirely top-down.
So to survive this top-down dynamic, the source guide gives us a set of specific security phrases.
What do they suggest?
The core examples they highlight are, do I need to remove my laptop? And where should I put my bag?
Very functional.
On first read, these seem incredibly simple, almost too simple to warrant a whole lesson. But based on what you were saying about the power dynamic, these phrases are doing a lot of heavy lifting.
They are vital tools for survival in that specific ecosystem. I would categorize these phrases as the language of compliance.
The language of compliance.
When you are standing at the security checkpoint, as we noted, you are in a highly rigid power structure. The absolute last thing you want to do is misunderstand an instruction, guess incorrectly, or appear noncompliant.
Because that's when things go wrong.
Noncompliance, even accidental noncompliance, due to a language barrier, is exactly what causes delays, secondary physical screenings, and ultimately missed flights.
So asking clarifying questions isn't just about figuring out what to do with your electronics. It's a tactic to keep yourself out of trouble.
It is a profound de-escalation tactic.
De-escalation.
Phrases like, do I need to remove my laptop? And where should I put my bag? Are highly functional. They ensure you, the traveler, follow instructions perfectly.
Yeah.
But let's look at the secondary psychological benefit.
What's that?
By asking these questions proactively, you are sending a massive behavioral signal to the security officer. You are communicating that you are a willing, cooperative participant in their rigid process.
You are showing them you aren't the problem child of the security line.
Exactly.
You aren't the person who's going to argue with them about the size of your shampoo bottle.
You are actively reducing the officer's cognitive load, too.
Oh, their cognitive load. That makes sense.
By saying, do I need to remove my laptop? You are essentially saying, I want to do this right. I respect your authority in this space. Please just tell me how to comply.
It's respectful.
You are using language to de-escalate potential friction and suspicion before it even has a chance to form.
Okay, so let's imagine you've successfully deployed the language of compliance.
You made it through.
You make it through the body scanner without it beeping. You grab your plastic bins, you shove your laptop back into your bag, you're putting your shoes back on while awkwardly hopping on one foot.
The classic airport hop.
Right. And you emerge into the concourse. The lights are bright. There are duty-free shops everywhere. And you suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea where you are.
You are disoriented.
You need to find your gate. The source anticipates this and gives us a specific phrase for wayfinding. They suggest, excuse me, could you tell me where gate number 5 is?
This specific sentence raises a deeply important point about sociolinguistics and how we adapt our language based on our physical surroundings.
How so?
Let's compare this wayfinding phrase to the check-in counter phrase we discussed earlier.
Okay.
At the check-in desk, we established that saying, here's my passport, was perfectly acceptable because it was blunt and efficient.
Right. We decided it was a courtesy to the agent to be direct.
But notice how the language completely shifts here in the concourse. You would never just walk up to a stranger looking at a departure board or a busy airport worker driving a cart, tap them on the shoulder and say, where is gate number 5?
No, you would sound like a maniac.
You really would.
Or, at the very least, incredibly rude and demanding. I can just imagine walking up to a janitor and yelling, Gate 5! They would look at me like I had lost my mind.
They would, because the social contract has fundamentally changed.
Social contract.
At the check-in counter, it is the agent's explicit paid job to interact with you and solve your logistical problems.
That's why they're there.
But out in the concourse, everyone from staff pushing wheelchairs to fellow travelers sprinting to catch a connection has their own trajectory. They have their own goals.
Everyone is on a mission.
When you stop someone to ask for directions, you are actively interrupting that trajectory.
Ah, I understand. So you have to apologize for the interruption before you can ask for the data you need.
That is the critical function of adding, excuse me, could you tell me, to the beginning of the sentence.
Right.
Excuse me, acts as a clear politeness marker. It signals immediately that you recognize you are imposing on their time and their physical space.
It softens the blow of the interruption.
And could you tell me, uses another conditional modal verb, much like I'd like to at check-in. It defers power to the other person.
Oh, because you aren't demanding.
Exactly. You aren't demanding they tell you. You are asking if they have the capability and the willingness to help. When you are lost and need to interrupt someone, your language must shift from pure, blunt transaction to polite, deferential interruption.
It is genuinely amazing how much social calculation and negotiation goes into a single 12-word sentence.
It's all subtext.
Excuse me, could you tell me where gate number 5 is? You are essentially saying, I know you're busy, I apologize for stepping into your path, but I am disoriented, I defer to your knowledge of this building, and I am throwing myself on your mercy.
That's a perfect translation of the subtext.
All of that complex social negotiation is packed into those few words.
And because you frame the interruption so politely, using the correct linguistic markers, the success rate of the other person actually stopping, smiling, and giving you the help you desperately need skyrocket.
You get a better result.
You manipulate the social environment in your favor.
So what does this all look like when we put the pieces together? We've looked at these isolated moments, getting the boarding pass, navigating the security pop quiz, finding the actual gate.
The individual components.
But the creators of this guide didn't just leave us with a list of isolated sentences to memorize in a vacuum. They actually give us a full, complete, real-world conversational exchange to analyze.
This is where we see all the theory put into practice.
Yeah, this is the practical application phase. The guide transitions to the boarding process, offering phrases like, may I see your boarding pass, and where's my seat?
And then it dives into the dialogue.
Right, a full dialogue between the guide's host, Ava, and a guest character named Alex. I really want to read through the mechanics of this dialogue because seeing it play out is fascinating. It demonstrates the flow we've been talking about.
Please, walk us through the script.
Okay, so Alex is playing the role of the airline agent. He starts by saying, good morning, may I see your passport, please?
The initiation.
Ava, the traveler, responds, sure, here you go. Alex then asks, where are you flying today? Ava replies directly, I'm flying to London.
Clean data exchange.
Alex asks about luggage, and Ava confirms 1 suitcase. Finally, Alex hands over the documents and says, here is your boarding pass. Your flight leaves from gate 12.
Delivering the temporal and spatial coordinates.
And they conclude the interaction by exchanging pleasantries. Alex says, have a great day, and Ava says, thank you. Have a safe flight.
It reads very much like a stage script because, in many ways, the airport check-in process is a highly choreographed theatrical performance. Both parties know their roles.
Before we dissect the flow and the rhythm of that performance, I have to admit some confusion about one of the boarding phrases the source includes right before this dialogue.
Which phrase is that?
The phrase is, where is my seat? I had to push back on this one. We live in an era of highly advanced digital travel. We have digital boarding passes on our smartwatches. We have airline apps that show us a 3D map of the plane.
We have so much technology.
Even paper tickets have the seat number printed in massive, bold font. Why on earth is a verbal confirmation like, where is my seat, still taught as an essential survival phrase?
You feel it's outdated?
It feels incredibly archaic. If you ask a flight attendant that when the information is literally in your hand, don't you look a bit unobservant?
It is a completely fair observation, and on a logical level, you are correct. The information is readily available.
Right, it's right there.
But that perspective fundamentally ignores the biological reality of travel stress we discussed earlier. Yes, the ink on the paper ticket clearly says 23B. But remember what we established about working memory and cognitive load.
Oh, the brain is completely maxed out. Cortisol is spiking.
Exactly. Imagine the physical environment of boarding a modern aircraft.
That's terrible.
You step off the jet bridge and enter a highly confined, structurally confusing, claustrophobic tube.
With tiny little windows.
It is filled with 200 other anxious people who are all trying to cram oversized luggage into tiny overhead bins. People are bumping into you.
Everyone is stressed.
The line behind you is stalled. Your adrenaline is spiking because you feel the social pressure of holding up the boarding process.
I hate that feeling, the people behind you just staring.
In that specific, highly charged moment, looking at a piece of paper that says 23B might not successfully translate in your stressed brain to the physical reality of the cabin layout.
Your brain just drops the ball.
You might look at the numbers above the seats, look back at your ticket, and experience a temporary cognitive disconnect.
I know that exact feeling. You look at the paper, you look at the rows of seats, and your brain just flatlines.
Yes.
You forget how the alphabet works. You can't remember if B is a window or a middle seat. It's ridiculous, but it happens.
It happens to seasoned travelers all the time. Therefore, the question, where is my seat, isn't always a genuine request for brand new information.
What is it then?
Often, it functions as a verbal failsafe. It is a psychological coping mechanism.
I fail safe.
You are temporarily outsourcing your cognitive processing to the flight attendant.
Wow.
The flight attendant is calm, they are in their own familiar environment, and they know the spatial layout of that specific aircraft instinctively.
Because they work there every day.
By asking them, you relieve your brain of the burden of figuring it out in a moment of panic. It is a perfectly valid, highly strategic use of language hidden inside a seemingly simple question.
Wow. I have to say, that totally flips my perspective on that phrase.
It changes things.
It's not about being unobservant or poorly prepared at all. It is a deliberate strategy for managing cognitive overload in a bottleneck.
It is about knowing when to ask for help to keep the system moving. Now let's look back at the full dialogue you outlined between Alex and Ava.
Okay.
When you read through that script, what stands out to you about the rhythm of their interaction?
It feels like a very fast, very cooperative ping pong match.
A ping pong match. That's good.
The agent serves a question. The traveler hits back a very short, very direct answer.
It is a masterclass in conversational rhythm and understanding power dynamics. If we map out the conversational dance, it is abundantly clear who is leading.
The agent.
The agent controls the entire flow of the interaction. They are the gatekeepers of the process. They initiate by asking for the passport. They dictate the topics in sequence: first destination, then luggage.
And the traveler respects that lead by responding with absolute pinpoint accuracy.
Exactly.
When asked where she is flying, Ava just says, London. She doesn't overshare.
No unnecessary detail.
There's no, well, I'm flying to London, but I have a layover in Paris first, and I'm really hoping my blue bag makes it because it has my favorite code in it.
The traveler understands that providing excess narrative breaks the rhythm. By providing only the requested data, Ava demonstrates respect for the agent's time and workflow.
It keeps the line moving.
But there is another layer to this dialogue that I think is profoundly important for anyone navigating these spaces. Look at how the interaction begins and how it ends.
Okay, it starts with Alex saying, good morning, and it ends with Alex saying, have a great day, and Ava responding, thank you, have a safe flight.
Those phrases are the emotional bookends of the conversation.
Emotional bookends.
In the middle, as we've seen, the dialogue is a rapid-fire, highly functional, stripped-down data exchange. But those bookends, the greeting and the farewell, serve a crucial psychological purpose.
What purpose is that?
They remind both parties of something fundamental. Despite the intense pressure, despite the demand for speed, this is still an interaction between two human beings.
It is a way of keeping the basic social contract intact, even when you are basically functioning like a data processing machine.
Yes. Even in the most hyper-functional, fast-paced industrial environments, a tiny touch of human warmth remains a crucial part of the process.
That makes sense.
It acknowledges the shared reality and the shared stress of the situation, ending with, have a safe flight isn't just a throwaway line or mindless filler.
It means something.
It is a subtle, powerful way of closing the transaction on a note of goodwill. Psychologically, that lowers the stress levels for both the airline agent and the traveler as they part ways.
It's like saying, okay, we successfully got through the high-stakes data exchange. You gave me my gate number. Now we can go back to being regular people for just one brief second before I have to run to gate 12.
It rehumanizes a profoundly dehumanizing environment. It is a small moment of grace built into the linguistic toolkit.
Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground.
We really have.
We understand the high-stress psychology of the airport environment. We know the specific functional phrases required for checking in, navigating the compliance checks at security, and politely interrupting people to find our gate.
The whole gauntlet.
We've seen how these phrases fit together in a cooperative, real-world dialogue that respects the rhythm of the agent. But here is the ultimate problem.
There's always a catch.
Knowing all of these phrases intellectually while sitting comfortably in your home listening to a deep dive is one thing.
Yes, theory is easy.
Actually being able to retrieve those phrases out of your memory bank in a moment of sheer panic at Terminal 3 when you are running late is something completely different.
That is the real test.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most important piece of the puzzle, the mechanics of confidence and practice.
This is where the guide transitions from offering theoretical knowledge to demanding practical application.
The source material ends with a very specific, very direct challenge for the listener.
What's the challenge?
Ava and Alex state, today's challenge is to practice 5 airport English sentences from this episode. They instruct you to close your eyes, imagine you are actually standing at an airport, and practice asking these specific questions out loud.
Okay.
And they make a very bold, explicit promise to the learner. They say, the more you practice travel conversations, the more confident you will become, and that this practice makes traveling in English much easier.
It is a fascinating, highly effective pedagogical approach. It moves beyond passive learning into active conditioning.
Active conditioning. It instantly reminds me of watching elite athletes prepare for a competition.
Oh, like visualization.
Yeah. You know when you watch the Winter Olympics and you see the downhill skiers standing at the top of the mountain before their run?
With their eyes closed.
Yes. Their eyes are closed, their hands are tucked, and you see them physically swaying side to side, twitching their muscles. They are visualizing every single turn, every jump, every icy patch of the entire course before they even push off the starting line.
That is mental rehearsal. It is a cornerstone of sports psychology.
Exactly. They are building muscle memory without even moving down the hill. If you rehearse the physical motions, or in our case, the vocal and cognitive motions of speaking these specific English phrases, in the safety and comfort of your own living room, your brain physically builds and strengthens those neural pathways.
It wires the brain for success.
The goal is that when you are finally standing at the check-in counter and the pressure is on and the agent is staring at you, you do not have to consciously construct the sentence from scratch. Your brain just fires the phrase off automatically.
You are perfectly translating the neurobiology at play here. Let's look at what actually happens in the brain when you learn a language.
Please break it down.
When you have to consciously construct a sentence in a second language, thinking about the subject, conjugating the verb, choosing the right vocabulary word, you are relying heavily on the prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex.
That is the part of your brain responsible for complex, deliberate problem solving. Processing language there is slow, it is hesitant, and it requires a massive amount of metabolic energy.
And as we discussed at length earlier, when you are in the airport, that specific part of your brain is already working overtime, worrying about losing your boarding pass or figuring out if you have time to use the restroom.
Precisely. The prefrontal cortex is already overwhelmed. So if you rely on it to generate language in that moment, you will freeze.
The dreaded brain freeze.
By practicing these phrases repetitively until they become automatic, you actually shift the retrieval process to a different, more ancient part of the brain, like the basal ganglia, which handles habits and reflexes.
Wow, it literally moves to a different part of the brain.
It does. You turn these sentences into automatic reflexes, like hitting the brakes in your car when you see a red light. But let's look at the specific constraint the creators of the source material use in their challenge.
Okay, the constraints.
They asked the learner to practice exactly 5 sentences. Why do you think they chose that specific number? Why not tell the listener to practice all 20 phrases in the guide? Why not 10?
Well, I would guess it has to do with how easily we get overwhelmed.
Human nature.
Yeah, if you hand me a list of 20 sentences and tell me to memorize them, I am going to feel defeated before I even start. I'll probably procrastinate and end up remembering none of them. But 5.
5 is a small number.
5 feels manageable. I can count 5 phrases on one hand. It just seems doable.
It is a deliberate strategy to prevent cognitive overload during the learning process itself. In psychology, there is a concept called chunking, which deals with the limited capacity of our short-term memory.
Chunking.
If a language learner looks at an entire dictionary or a massive phrase book of travel terms, the sheer volume of information creates anxiety. But setting a small, strictly bounded constraint, just 5 sentences, is highly achievable.
It sets you up for success.
Exactly. It gives the learner a quick win. It builds a sense of immediate mastery and competence, which fuels the motivation to keep learning.
And I find it really interesting that they explicitly instruct you to imagine being at the airport while you practice those 5 sentences. They really want you to visualize the environment.
That is not just a casual throwaway suggestion for role play. It is a proven clinical psychological technique for anxiety reduction.
Really?
It is essentially a self-guided form of exposure therapy.
Wait, like how people get over a fear of spiders by slowly looking at pictures of spiders?
Very similar mechanisms, yes. The airport is an anxiety trigger.
For sure.
By vividly imagining the stressful environment, picturing the harsh lighting, hearing the overlapping announcements in your head, visualizing the long lines and the intimidating authority figures, while you are safely practicing the correct linguistic response in your kitchen, you are conditioning your nervous system.
You are tricking your brain.
You are training your brain to associate that highly stressful environment with a feeling of linguistic control and capability. You are teaching your body to remain calm when the actual situation arises.
You are literally hacking your own stress response. You are overriding the panic reflex with a language reflex.
You are. And by explicitly linking this practice routine to building confidence, the source material reveals its true, deeper nature.
Which is?
It isn't just a vocabulary lesson. It is a lesson in emotional regulation through linguistic preparedness.
Emotional regulation.
You aren't just learning the words to say, "Where is gate number 5?"
Yeah.
You are actively learning how to prevent a panic attack when you are disoriented, tired, and lost in a massive building in a foreign country.
That is a profound way to look at it. You are meticulously building this linguistic armor, piece by piece, phrase by phrase, to protect yourself from the sheer chaos of the travel environment.
Which is why this short, seemingly simple source material is actually quite brilliant. It understands the reality of travel.
It really does.
It understands that in those high-stakes moments, confidence isn't about having a massive vocabulary or knowing every single word in the English language perfectly.
It's not about fluency.
True travel confidence is simply knowing exactly which specialized tool to reach for in your toolkit when the pressure is on.
Okay, let's bring all these abstract psychological and linguistic concepts back down to earth and summarize this incredible journey we've been on today.
It's been quite a ride.
We started by entirely reframing how we look at the airport. We stopped viewing it as just a building where airplanes park and started analyzing it as a high-stress, time psychological ecosystem that absolutely demands quick, unambiguous, frictionless communication.
We saw how utilizing stripped-down, highly functional phrases like the conditional politeness of "I'd like to check in" or the blunt clarity of "Here is my passport" act as a vital necessary toolkit to successfully navigate the structural bottlenecks of check-in counters and security checkpoints.
We analyze the subtle social negotiations hidden within the language. We look at how our phrases must rapidly adapt to different social constraints, shifting from direct, rapid-fire transaction with the check-in agent to polite, deferential interruption when we need to ask a stranger in the concourse for directions.
And finally, we explored the fascinating neurobiology and mechanics of practice.
The athletes on the mountain.
Exactly. We saw how targeted, visualized rehearsal of a small, manageable number of phrases directly translates into emotional regulation, shifts language recall from the overwhelmed prefrontal cortex to automatic reflexes, and ultimately builds genuine travel confidence.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to address you, the listener, directly.
Ball's in your court now.
Exactly. We have spent this time talking about the theory, we have broken down the hidden mechanics of the source guide, but now it is your turn to act. The creators of this lesson gave a challenge, and I want to pass that challenge directly to you.
What's their homework?
Before your next trip, whether you are flying out next week, next month, or planning something for next year, pick your 5 phrases. Identify the 5 moments in the airport that cause you the most anxiety.
Pick the pain points.
Don't just read the phrases on a screen. Stand in your kitchen or your living room. Close your eyes. Vividly imagine the noise of the terminal. Feel the heavy weight of your luggage on your shoulder. Picture the security officer looking at you.
Visualize all of it.
And say those 5 phrases out loud, over and over, until they feel like a reflex. Master your toolkit. Take the theoretical knowledge we uncovered in this deep dive and turn it into immediate, practical, confidence-building action.
Because that is where the real value of any guide lies. Knowledge, no matter how deeply we analyze it, remains only potential energy until you physically apply it in the real world.
I couldn't agree more. And as we leave you today, I want to pose one final, slightly provocative thought for you to chew on as you prepare for your travels.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have spent this entire hour analyzing how mastering this highly scripted, rigid, predictable language is the ultimate key to surviving the hostile environment of the airport.
We have focused entirely on the language of compliance and the necessity of functional data exchange.
But here's the deeper question to mull over. Does mastering the highly scripted, predictable language of an airport actually serve a much larger, more beautiful purpose?
Oh.
By relentlessly practicing these phrases until the routine, stressful parts of travel become completely automatic and thoughtless, does it free up our precious mental bandwidth?
That's a great point.
And by freeing up that cognitive load, are we ultimately better prepared to embrace and handle the completely unscripted, wildly unpredictable, and genuinely magical moments of travel that inevitably occur once we finally step off that plane and into a new world?
That is the ultimate goal of all preparation, isn't it? To survive the mechanics so you can actually experience the destination.
Something to think deeply about the next time you step up to the counter and hand over your passport. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.